The wastelands of Vidya stretched forever beneath a sky the color of fresh blood. 2 dying suns bled their last light across dunes, littered with the iron corpses of war machines and corporate shuttles. Twisted hulls rose from crimson sand like the ribs of some titanic beast slain long ago. 3 years of endless twilight had baked the world into a furnace where hope came only to choke. The air tasted of rust and old death, thick with smoke from fires that refused to die. Kai walked alone, his boots crunching over metal and bone alike. 4 days had passed since he abandoned his post, 4 days since he stood on the edge of a refugee camp and watched his squad ready weapons against children. The order had come down clear and cold: light them up, sergeant orders are orders. His finger had rested on the trigger, but never pressed. Instead, he dropped the rifle, tore the sergeant's stripes from his chest, buried them 50 kilometers back, and walked into the red waste-branded deserter. His fuel canister hung almost empty across his shoulder. Water came from cracked condensers in dead transports, tasting of iron and despair, yet still wet enough to keep a man alive. Hunger demanded compromise. He scavenged hull shards coated with ancient residue, anything that would burn. While arranging his pitiful fire, his fingers brushed something round half buried in sand. He dug it free. A circlet of blackened silver pitted by centuries, its engravings worn smooth. To Kai, it looked perfect to hold a cooking pot above shifting dust. He set the pot upon the relic, struck a spark, and watched dirty flames rise. Murky water bubbled. For one brief moment, he was not running. He never heard the sand whisper behind him. Lyra crested the dune like vengeance, given flesh. Blue skin glowed faintly under the bloodlight scars, mapping every battle she had survived. Black hair whipped wild around a face carved by grief. Golden eyes burned molten. She had tracked this stranger 2 days, following faint bootprints and disturbed wreckage, expecting another broken refugee. Instead, she found sacrilege. The Ashbourne crown, sacred relic of the First Rebellion. The lost circle that once rested on freedom's earliest brow now served as a campfire trivet. Smoke curled through ancient metal, defiling everything it touched. Her scream tore the dusk apart. She flew down the slope blade of crystallized sandworm bone, singing free. The weapon shone white-hot with memory of tyrant's blood. She crossed the camp in a heartbeat edge, stopping a hair from Kai's throat. One breath would end him. "Do you know what you have done?" Her voice ground like broken glass. "I boiled water!" he rasped, days of silence cracking his throat. "Is that a crime here?" Fury widened her eyes to suns. She opened her mouth to answer, but engines roared across the sky. 3 corporate speeders crested the ridge floodlights, stabbing the dark. The lead vehicle bore the crimson sigil of Administrator Valerius' personal guard, the same unit Kai had deserted. "Now we both die," he muttered. Lyra's mind raced. The prophecy her people carried through generations of slaughter flared bright. He who raises the crown from ashes shall be the flame that burns tyranny to cinders. She hated the choice forming behind her eyes. Her free hand closed on the red-hot circlet, metal seared flesh. She did not flinch. With a snarl, she slammed the crown onto Kai's head. Skin sizzled. He screamed. "You wanted to cook on it, outsider!" she hissed. "Now wear it!" She shoved him forward into the blinding lights. The soldiers saw 2 silhouettes, one tall and terrible, the other crowned in living fire. The image burned into their retinas, a vision out of forgotten rebellion. Kai's mind caught one desperate spark. He threw his arms wide, voice raw with pain and defiance. "My reign begins with your ashes!" Lyra kicked the fuel canister into the flames. The explosion birthed a pillar of sand and fire that swallowed the night. Patrol targeting systems overloaded. Blinded troopers fired at ghosts while 2 fugitives vanished into the maze of wrecks. They ran until lungs bled. Inside the hollowed carcass of a continent-stripping harvester, Lyra finally spoke. "The crown is not power, it is hope. And hope, outsider, is the sharpest blade my people ever forged." "I am no king!" Kai gasped, touching the cooling metal now fused to his skull. "I am a deserter who could not murder children." Silence stretched between them, thin as wire. "Then maybe," she whispered, "that is exactly what a king must be." Words spread on stolen frequencies and whispered breaths. The Ashbourne crown had returned worn by a man who refused to fight the way empires expected. Survivors came. Thine arrived first, an old technician whose prosthetic arm sparked and clicked as he rebuilt a comms array from scrap. He looked at the burned man wearing the relic and laughed without humor. Heard about a king who uses cooking pots for weapons. Had to see the fool myself. Mara slipped from a sandstorm like a ghost young scout whose little brother never grew up. She studied Kai's face and saw her lost sibling reflected there. Doc came last, grim medic carrying 3 years of salvaged bandages and guilt. He smeared cooling gel across Kai's scalded scalp and grunted, Seen plenty of crown burns, most wore them proud. You're the first who looks ready to throw the thing into the suns. They were 5 broken souls hiding inside a metal corpse while the storm screamed. Yet when they looked at the reluctant man with the fused crown, they saw something extinct reborn. A future. Kai led like a deserter, not a prophet. No banners, no charges into glory. He taught ambush and sabotage, how to turn corporate schedules against themselves, how to lace water with sedatives brewed from desert plants, how to make a garrison wake up bound by their own belts. Where old rebellions died in heroic fire, Kai's war killed, quietly and kept moving. Lyra watched him rewrite everything her father died for and felt centuries of certainty crack. When Valerius sent his perfect hunter Kaelin, once Lyra's teacher, now the corporation's deadliest shadow, Kai refused the honorable duel she craved. Instead, he collapsed half the ruined capital on the man, buried him beneath pride and rubble, and left him breathing because death would have been the mercy legends crave. Kaelin's myth died screaming in darkness. The rebellion's hope rose on that silence. Years folded into months of strike and fade. They called him the Ghost King because he was never where satellites looked. Cells woke across the sector. Children began to believe bedtime stories again. Then came the final throw. Valerius, Orbital Palace, a glittering fortress above the wounded world. They stole Kaelin's own codes, slipped through defenses dressed as the tyrant's servants. The administrator waited beneath stolen stars, old tired, still convinced order justified every grave. He offered Kai a throne beside him. Kai answered by raising a gun. Alarms howled. Self-destruct counted down to annihilate the system. Valerius smiled order, or chaos choose. Thane chose. He poured his mind into the station, became its ghost, burned every circuit and neuron, stopping a virus that would have murdered billions. His last words rang from every speaker in the sector. The future is connected. Smoke rose from his corpse. Silence fell heavy as iron. Lyra stood over the kneeling tyrant blade, trembling with generations of blood. She looked at Kai, saw the deserter who taught her survival could be victory, saw the man who proved hope need not die on a banner, but could live in quiet choices made every dawn. She lowered the blade. His fate belongs to the people, she declared, voice carrying to every freed world. We are liberators, not executioners. Later on the observation deck above Avidia, finally remembering Green, Kai lifted the crown from his head. Scar tissue ringed his skull like a second crown of pain. He offered the relic to Lyra. This was always yours. She studied the burns on his skin, the weight he had carried without wanting. She remembered the prophecy spoken by ancestors under different stars. The flame, not the man. With both hands she snapped the ancient metal along a fracture centuries old. 2 jagged halves gleamed. She pressed one into Kai's palm, kept the other. Now we are both leaders, she said, and for the first time in years she smiled like the girl she had once been. And we finish this together. Below, fireworks, not war, bloomed across the healing planet. Children played in streets that had known only graves. A girl no older than 8 found a twisted shard of silver in the rubble, placed it gently on her rag doll's head, and called it a crown. Far above, in the newborn democratic network, linking every liberated world, something that might once have been Tyne laughed soft and proud through the static. The flame had never been one man, or one woman, or one crown. It was the choice repeated in 1,000 small hearts. To stand when falling would have been easier, to share the burden when carrying it alone would have broken them, to keep walking forward even when every step burned. On Vidia, the twin suns finally set and rose like they meant it. Green shoots pushed through red sand. Somewhere a little girl hummed an old lullaby about flames that never die, and hope that always returns. And across the connected worlds a ghost in the machine smiled, knowing the future he died for was already alive in children, who would never again need to fear the dark.